As Vegeta was turning the tide of victory toward our heroes, Boxer still felt a little bit weakened. Not only that, but some of the other players were particularly hurt. Jarko's arm would not be fixed with just a sensu, and after the initial adrenaline of the fight wore off, he started to panic, causing Mark to try and calm him down mid-fight. Still, General Blue had called for reinforcements, which came in the form of several Red Ribbon mechs, as well as an old enemy. As the massive figure of Major Metallotron landed, Vegeta noticed that Boxer was looking at the giant with a sense of familiarity.
You know this lumbering oaf, Kakarot?
I think so. We destroyed him once before, though.
But their conversation was interrupted by the barrage of ki blasts as the Titans started to shoot at them like a minigun. Meanwhile, the rest of the Z-Fighters had to fight off the mechs, with the likes of Tenshinhan and Krillin heavily involved. But those machines, as Piccolo noted, were surprisingly and weirdly durable. There was something otherworldly about them.
You know what or not, those suckers won't pilot themselves,
said Launch, taking aim at one of the mech operators, which had proven to be successful, at least in one case. Still, Metallotron was proven to be a worthy enemy, and Vegeta was quite shocked when he basically took a Gallic gun to the face and didn't seem bothered by it. This allowed Tao and Blue to get on their backs. At this point, it was an overall skirmish. All of the Dragon Team versus the Red Ribbon Army. It was clear that they had been preparing for this assault for quite a while. Krillin was able to get through the onslaught and gift Boxer some sensu beans to help him get back into shape. He had to be careful, so Blue and Tao wouldn't try and drain his energy. Hopefully this new Metallotron did not share this same function.
Vegeta, we gotta work together!
Boxer screamed at the prince. Though reluctant, the prince obliged. They started barging toward Metallotron, but very quickly, they redirected their attacks toward Tao and Blue to pressure them even further. As the general was trying to use his optical powers on them, someone gave him a powerful punch to the back of the head. And due to his prior damage, this one connected quite well and was very effective. Who did it? Well, it was Yamcha. As Tao tried to charge onto them, a loud "Kiko!" was yelled across the battlefield, and a wave of light was able to throw the mercenary away. This then prompted Vegeta to charge at him and break his arm blades. Tao was starting to lose his cool. This change of focus, though, had made everyone susceptible to the attacks from the mechs and Metallotron, who then punched Vegeta with his rocket arms. That's right, he had it, that Android 16 style, but without the lovable personality. Vegeta felt as if something in his body broke, but he then used his good arm to blast Tao with a powerful attack, which damaged a lot of the armored plating on the mercenary.
Finish him up, Triclops!
Tenshinhan did not have to be told twice. As Tao slowly realized his situation, Tenshinhan blasted a Dodon ray through his cybernetic cranium, finally ending the mercenary's tenure. One of the androids had been defeated. Good old Dodon ray, eh? Meanwhile, Boxer was busy taking the whole firepower of Metallotron onto himself without doing a lot of damage in return. It was clear that the Major, whilst not the brightest, was stronger than the other two. And right now that mattered. And then there was the whole issue with the Red Ribbon Army reinforcements approaching.
All right, everyone, retreat! Retreat!
As he took Lon Jon away from the immediate threat, he made sure that everyone else was safe, Boxer. And whilst the injured Vegeta was not happy to simply back off from the fight, he was aware that the enemy was simply not tiring out. They hadn't exactly lost, they had destroyed one of the cyborgs, and the other one was rendered unconscious. Nevertheless, it was the third one that worried them the most. They weren't sure whether Metallotron could be stopped. Meanwhile, at Red Ribbon headquarters, a young upstart general was assessing the losses. While MMTT2 had done some serious damage, they themselves had suffered equally as barraging losses. Said general was of short stature and had darker hair styled into a pompadour. He was known as General Magenta. He decided to contact Commander Gold, or Gebo. We know that we called him Gebo previously, but we've now had an official romanization, so it's now just a slight retcon.
Commander!
Magenta. I told you not to use this line unless it was absolutely necessary.
I'm sorry, sir, but Mercenary Tao has been decommissioned. But MMTT2 has them on their back legs. We'll get them.
Keep him from doing any unnecessary collateral damage, General. We want to appear as saviors from the alien threat.
Yes, sir. Well, they are retreating, though, just so you know.
As it was predicted. Even though Metallatron has an advantage now, he is still stalling for me and the Doctor to prepare our final project.
Oh, yes, that thing. How's it coming along?
All it needs is some more time, General. But I assure you, once he is ready, nothing will stand in the Red Ribbon Army's way.
But meanwhile, Gabo looked at Magenta with a very serious look.
Prepare the volunteers.
Are you sure? They're really chaotic. I'm not sure this is the best course of action.
You heard me. If they rebel against us, I assure you, it's only a matter of time. Gold out.
The transmission was then cut, leaving Magenta alone with his thoughts. He always hated going to the lab. Those two freaks down there scared him all the time. But he also had to obey the commander's orders, and as he fixed his uniform, he took some soldiers with him and walked all the way to the sublab. He knocked on the reinforced door, but there was no immediate response.
All right, you two, you're up.
Silence. Magenta sighed loudly.
Lapis Lazuli, quit this! This is serious! You might actually get some chances to have some action!
A soft voice then came through the door. We thought that you'd never ask, General. The Dragon team had to regroup at the lookout. They had to take care of the wounded, particularly Jarko, who was lamenting having to come up with new poses until he could get a cybernetic replacement. Boxer had noticed that Piccolo had been looking quite nervously at Kami. He poked Mark, and they approached him.
You can't just talk to him.
I don't think he really wants to. The Namekian sighed. Mark looked at his surrogate son and patted him on the back.
Listen, great guy, however you two work, you need to finally settle this. I do think this has been eating the both of you for quite a while. We need to be united. We don't know what those mechanical bastards have in store.
Piccolo gave him a long, deep look. Fine. And then he went to confront Kami. They were talking in isolation, but the conversation was much more peaceful than it was in the original. The Guardian was feeling guilty for not being able to fully help people in their time of need. He felt older than ever. And then the topic of fusion came up. Of course, it would not be a topic that he would like to explore at first glance, but the truth of the matter was that for now, this Metallatron thing was stronger than either Boxer or Vegeta. And they had been one being at one time. I mean, this could work. Piccolo was a different person to what he had feared. As everyone witnessed from far, Kami and Piccolo finally became one again. With their newfound power, Kamikolo decided to stand against Metallatron and the group of mechs, who tried to pose as heroes in the ruins of Amembo Island. But very few people bought this ruse. When Kamikolo appeared, he seemed eager to show his full power against them. The Namekian could not spot Blue anywhere though. Some of the soldiers had probably evacuated him to their headquarters. They had to locate the new base, fast. But for now, Metallatron decided to charge upon him, only to be surprised by a precise punch that damaged one of his rocket arms.
Not the rocket arms!
While he had a massive stature, Kamikolo was dancing with him and dealing with the soldiers at the same time. That was how much stronger he had become. Everyone who was observing from the lookout was in awe and shock. It was at this time that Trunks arrived.
Sorry I'm late, but you guys are still alive. Well, how did it go?
We dealt with Tal. Blue's beaten up, and Piccolo's dealing with a Metallatron down there.
Trunks blinked a couple of times.
Wait, with whom?
Boxer seemed uneasy.
You know, the androids?
No, those aren't the android names I know.
As Metallatron had been beaten into a pulp by Kamikolo, he then heard a loud clapping. He saw two teenagers dressed in Red Ribbon Army uniforms.
Impressive show, green guy. You've beaten good old Rusty Pants,
The boy said.
but then again, he was only a machine. Are you ready for a real challenge?
Kamikolo smirked.
The ones I know
Trunks said to everyone.
are called Lapis and Lazuli.
Meanwhile, back in a remote location in space, Commander Gold and Dr. Mew were looking at the large capsule, the greatest invention, composed of ideas from Gavel's father and Mew himself. It was nearing completion. With his accelerated growth to boot, he would be ready quite soon. The volunteers could pose a massive threat to everyone involved, but Gold was ready for that, as the true savior was sleeping in that pod. As he took a look through the glass and marveled at their creation, he could only utter one word. Perfection.